our next December 3rd meeting.
Also, on a backup to that, again, I double down on what Cheryl just said. Also, folks are interested in what's going on with Pembroke. Basically, obviously they're interested in working with us, but they have had some attorney changes that have occurred in the interim. And obviously that's kind of, honestly, thrown a wrench into it, but backed stuff up a little bit. We're still working on that, but they may not be as timely as the other folks have been in turning that around. And there are also a couple concerns that we have about that agreement as well.
Yes, Mr. Fong.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the board support the idea that anyone applying to Pembroke should do it through the JCB policy, and that the school should provide all letters of recommendation and other supporting information. If I get a second, I'll speak to my motion.
I'll second that.
We've been made aware that the MOU will not be timely. There are some concerns about the application process, and I don't think that we need to hold up students anymore. I don't think we need to not have letters of recommendation written. This process needs to move forward, and it's pretty clear that they're not going to be under MOU in the near future.
Yes, Mr. Wisconsin.
I'm going to support this. It's one block of parents that can get some relief and get their process moving for their children that are sure that's where they want to go. Pembroke has an application process that is part of their process. That's a sticking point for them. So there's no need to delay the parents anymore. We have JCB that became active again November 19th. This board did vote to uphold any decisions on JCB till November 19th. That date is passed. So the parents get their recommendation letters, do their applications, and coordinate with the superintendent and then the board. Those approvals should go fairly quickly. Thank you.
Dr. Littleton.
Yeah, if I could, to the board, just on the motion itself, I do have a concern with the board taking any action requiring a staff member to write a recommendation.
Too much work.
I have a little bit of a concern with an administrator telling a teacher not to write a letter of recommendation. This has been done in the past. It's clear now that these kids that want to go to Pembroke require this, and that there's not going to be an MOU in the near future. So it is time that as long as the teacher is willing to write a letter, that she or he be allowed to write that letter so that those kids can go ahead and make their decisions.
Yes, Mr. Dunlap.
Hey, Phil, can I ask you a quick question? And this is a logistic administrative question, I guess?
Yes.
So, will it create for you, or what do you think about the process that obviously we have these other agreements that we're in the process of working out with the MOUs that are coming forward more quickly, I guess. So, does it make things more difficult if, like, say, you know, we were to approve the Bow agreement tonight and do things at different stages versus letting all the kids do whatever they have to do all at once? Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? So, in other words, instead of piecemealing things, and as they're approved, allowing, I guess, those folks to submit, because obviously the MOUs we're working with, there's no selection process. That was one of our primary issues. And David had mentioned the fact that that was something that was a sticking point with Pembroke, and there would have to be another process for that. I'm just wondering, any problems it will cause if we start letting some folks come meet with you about their kids and not letting other folks, I guess is what I'm asking.
No, let me process it. I think you're in a different position this year than you were in a year ago. And it all depends on how the board wants to handle it. The fact of the matter is every one of our eighth graders has the ability to apply for entrance to any high school in the state. And this board has a policy that it would act upon a request based upon acceptance of that youngster and based upon the fact that parent would pay any tuition differential in between what we pay Manchester and will provide their own transportation. So we don't have to specifically single out Pembroke. That policy will apply to Raymond. It will apply to any place. The policy does not require parents to meet with me, nor does the policy require a specific reason for the parent request to attend the school that they're seeking to be admitted to. So, I'm not sure I'm addressing your question or whether, is that what you were questioning or am I?
I'm just saying, it's almost like applying a double standard, I guess I want to say, because we have other folks that are obviously waiting on the MOUs or these agreements that we're doing with other schools, say like Londonderry and Bow, and whatever we end up doing with Pinkerton, and also parents that want to go to Manchester. So what I'm saying is singling out one group and getting them rolling in the process when we're holding up other folks. I'm just not unsure how fair that is, and if it creates like a logistics nightmare for you and your staff. I guess
That's
what I'm-
obviously a board decision, whether you feel as though it's fair or unfair. I think it's precipitated by the fact that it doesn't look as though you're gonna have a Pembroke MOU in a timely fashion. So it communicates to parents that if you have an interest in Pembroke, you actually be doing it solo. Like we've done in the past. There'll be no change in what we've done in the past. So it's really not any type of administrative overload for us. I had no intention of meeting with the parents that want to go somewhere else. In fact, I will tell you this, that in other districts, that is sometimes delegated to the superintendent, and the parent simply gives us a letter of acceptance and a request to attend, and it's approved. And we, at the next meeting of the board, just give them a list of approvals. That is the most expedient thing for both parents and for administration. They just request, they're accepted, it's approved. Next. But absolutely no overload on us doing that for one school.
Me and then Mr. Pearl, just to make the board aware, while Dr. Littlefield was speaking, I went on the SAU 53 website, and it said their application for the 2014-2015 school year is not even uploaded on their website. And on their 2013-2014, it says that the academy we will begin accepting applications for the 2013 school year in late January, early February. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So, Madam Chair, my motion is just to communicate to the parents that there's really not an expectation to wait for the MOU from what we learned, and that the administration should cooperate with the letters. Anybody is going to want to have that information ready for whenever they can put it in. And that's all that I'm asking for, that we just let those parents know that they can go through this process, and we are not part of it at this point. We're helping with the letter or any other grades or any other information they need, but it's not going to be part of an agreement.
So we're just letting them know, do we need a motion or?
My motion also contains that we should support them with letters, and we'll probably want to read that back because I'm a little foggy on exactly what my wording was.
Yeah, and you know what, I may not have gotten the whole end of that, so you might want to clarify.
If you want to retract, John, I'll make a new motion. Would you rather start that way?
I'd like to make a comment before I retract. As Mr. Littlefield made us aware, and I think he's got a very good point, there's no real need to specify Pembroke or Auburn or anybody else and make them aware that we have JCB that we want to use, or want them to use. Perhaps your motion should just be to ask the administration to send out a communication to inform people that the Pembroke process is to use JCB, and that if anybody needs the school's help, it is available. And the only reason I say that is last night there was a great attendance at the meeting, and I know there were little notes that got sent out, little printouts, you know, and so that looked like that was effective to get people there. So maybe we should use that same method to communicate out to people about the Pembroke decision.
Are you retracting your second?
Now I'll retract my second.
I'll retract my motion and I'll make a new motion. The motion that we inform the public that it's unlikely to be an upcoming MOU with Pembroke, and that we would advise if they want to go there, they use the JCB policy, and that the Hooksett School District will support them in any information that they need.
I'll second that.
How was it handled before as far as what the administration did for support of the students? What did that piece look like in previous years?
Actually, Mr. Benson can answer it better. It's really not terribly new to us.
Right.
Like when we have high school and kids are applying to colleges, we know how to do it. I'm just a little concerned with the inference that there was any blocking behavior, to tell you. I'm being honest with you.
Right, and so my number one and number two, I'm not so sure I want to, as a board member, to direct exactly how that administrative piece is handled. To me, that is between yourself and your staff. So that is the piece that I'm questioning right now and want some feedback on before I decide to vote.
Can I address that?
What recommendations?
So in the past, any student going to Manchester goes to Manchester. Any student who's going to any other school that's not a private school, example Trinity, Bishop Brady, parents have gone, taken the initiative, requested the information that they need. With going forward this year, we were confused of basically what needed to be done, because we were under the understanding of, with whatever we, MOUs, contracts, or whatever, it was just going to be, my intent is to go here. I spoke with the principal of Londonderry High School yesterday. They do not need recommendations. It's not a part of the process. I had an email from, she works with Chip Underhill, Ann Parker. Pinkerton does not need recommendations. Pembroke, we have so few students that go there sometimes, so, but whatever Pembroke has always asked, we've always given them. Some schools have specific rubrics that they fill out, that they ask us to fill out, and we fill those out with no problem. And they may not require a recommendation, writing ability, type of student, clubs, activities. So we're always more than willing to do that. And Bo, again, I don't recall any recommendations, but we'd be more than willing to do that if that's what's required by the school. I do have a fundamental issue with it, because all of those 8th graders, I want to give them the best possible chance, and I don't want a recommendation to be that are written or for one student that student would get in, because it is a public school and it's not, you know, I just don't want to hurt a student that, you know, may not be the stellar student or the, you know, student council president or the athlete, but the student that, I want to give all of our students the ability to get into all the public high schools. You know, so that's just fundamentally what I'm thinking, and I'm uncomfortable with writing the recommendations if it is a selection process.
They didn't ask, they did do that?
Uh,
Or
they-
because I think Pembroke has always had that requirement, correct?
And I can't recall what Pembroke has had specifically, but I do know last year I communicated with the principal of Londonderry High School, some Pinkerton, but we specifically cleared it up last Friday. And then I spoke with Jason Parent, the principal, on Monday about recommendations. I have not spoken with Bo, I have not spoken with Pembroke. But I'd be willing to make those phone calls and speak to the people directly at the school. Because that's generally the communication that we get between myself and the school, clears up any misconceptions and miscommunication. And generally those principals and people that I've spoken with, they speak with their staff and let them know the conversation that we've had.
Not to belabor a point that's probably taking up more time than it should take up. But the issue that was faced by the Cawley staff is they were being asked to write letters of recommendation for application to another public high school that did not require letters of application, letters of recommendation as part of the application process. It was a misunderstanding, I don't know where it started from, that people thought they had to do this and they didn't have to do this, and they were so instructed that we weren't going to do it because it wasn't necessary. In the past,
Mr. Benson, did you tell 8th grade teachers not to write letters of recommendation?
He's not finished. No, I said so that you would put your hand down because the superintendent has very nicely and respectfully, on more than one occasion, asked us not to have his hand up.
Here's my hand.
I
okay?
said, Mr.
Put it
Pearl
up
and
when
Mr.
I want
Lisbon.
to put it up. You have the floor.
I'm not going to get involved. Thank you.
Mr. Benson,
Did you instruct 8th grade teachers not to write
You may
letters
not
of
speak
recommendation?
directly to a member of the staff.
They're sitting at this board.
Superintendent.
Okay. Dr. Littlefield, did Mr. Benson indicate to 8th grade parents that they couldn't write letters of recommendations?
and Madam
Chair, I have a question. Why are they sitting here if we can't talk to them? It was explained to me that they were here to provide information and answer questions for us, and now I'm told we can't talk to them.
Yes, and our policy and our rules say that we direct questions to the administration to Dr. Littlefield, and Dr. Littlefield decides if he is going to answer or his staff. Again, rules you don't choose to follow. Mr. Lisgar, you're next.
Wait a minute. I did not
Get an answer to my question. I've asked Dr. Littlefield if Mr. Benson directed the 8th grade teachers to not write letters of recommendation.
I don't know what the specific directive was. The intent of the communication with the 8th grade teachers was, it was not necessary to write them. That there would,
Madam Chair,
I would like to ask Dr. Littlefield to ask Mr. Benson if he told teachers not to write the letters of recommendation.
Question, Mr.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did.
No, he did not. He said he was unsure, and I'm asking the person that said it because I've heard from two parents. The teachers were told not to write letters. That's what I want to know.
I just want to understand correctly, that we understand from two parents what teachers were told. So they don't know what teachers were told.
You're asking me a question?
I should-
Parents came to
no,
me
no,
and said
I
that's what they were
apologize.
told.
I should
You
not.
asked a question.
Well, I apologize, I should not be asking the question. Matt, what was the message that was communicated to 8th grade teachers?
The message to 8th grade teachers was, hold off in writing recommendations until we find out what is required. If a private school needs a recommendation, write it. If not, if there's any confusion, have the parent call me, and I'd be happy to speak to them.
Thank you, Mr. Benson, and that's not the information that I received. And the other thing, when we had a discussion the other night, you told me that part of the reason was we were holding off for these MOUs. The environment of inevitability that's been set up in this town is what's setting us up for these problems. This board has to vote for MOUs. We should not be holding up a process to see if something is going to pass. And you said to find out if these schools required it. Pembroke has always required it. So if it's your lack of knowledge that they require it, the parents shouldn't suffer for that. The teacher should be allowed to write the letter, and the students should be allowed to go on their way.
Mr. Liscars, I apologize, you've had your hand up for a couple of times.
No, Mr. Benson answered my question. Thank you.
I also want to make the board aware, while everyone was speaking, the application for Pembroke Academy only requires one letter of recommendation. It states right in the list of supporting materials. And again, they don't accept them until the end of January, beginning of February, and we've got indications that we should anticipate a Pembroke MOU prior to that. Is there any more discussion?
Madam Chair, we got no indication that we should expect a Pembroke MOU before the January date. Is that what you said?
Yes, that is what I said.
Madam Chair? I'd just like to go on the record that I haven't heard any definite date for the Pembroke MOU. What I have heard is, right now, it is undecided, and what we need to do is direct the parents to follow the normal Pembroke procedure of application. So I think we're still on a motion here, I'm not sure. But I think the motion is to inform the parents. And why do I support this? And why is it different, to Cheryl's point, of anything we've done in the past? In the past, we had a contract with Manchester. We had to be very careful that the Hooksett School Board and the administration didn't look like they were assisting children because of our contract concerns. That was why we didn't want to assist the process before. It's a whole new ballgame now. The parents are very aware of what we're doing. We're trying to get done MOUs and contracts. And as the public is aware, it's not as simple. And Dr. Littlefield has said there's many moving parts. So it is a complex process, but once we have a piece of that process that is solidified, there is no reason at all to delay anybody. We've got to get these parents feeling secure about their decisions for their child. If somebody has already decided they would like the opportunity to go to Pembroke, and if they'd like to apply today, I support them. So anything we can do, and I know Mr. Benson would support any parent that came up to him today and wanted some support to get their child into Pembroke, he would do it. I'm positive of that. So all I'm asking is support, because I will support Mr. Pearl's motion to inform the general public whichever way is the best. And I'm just suggesting if we have emails, send them out. If we can send a note home, send it out. Just to let them know one concrete piece is follow the process of JCB or JCA for the Pembroke parents at least. Thank you.
So, as we mentioned earlier, I guess in this same topic, the two items that we're still working on, the two districts, are Pinkerton and Pembroke. So that process is not dead. Based on what Tricia just said, and which I'm sure David knows, because he has a daughter that's at Pembroke, the process doesn't start for some...
Mr. Dembo, I'm going to ask you not to discuss my children. Thank you.
Has experience with Pembroke and would know the drop dead date, etc., and about the application process. So again, we didn't say negotiations with Pembroke were dead in the water. And again, if folks attended our high school info night last night, that is one of the schools that it continues to be listed in our schools that are in the mix with satellites and anchor schools.
Cheryl? If there is no further discussion, I will call this motion to a vote. All those in favor, please.
Roll call, please.
All those in favor, someone's going to do a roll call.
Jonas first.
Yes.
Pembroke.
No.
Pembroke.
Yes.
No.
Forbes.
No. It was
Or sale,
failed.
sell house.
That's our only option.
To do.
Just so you know, we're, three of us in this audience are ready to put our houses for sale because we don't know where our kids are going and you're not helping, and I apologize for interrupting, but you guys are just ridiculous. I mean, seriously, we are putting our houses for sale, and if you understood the realtor who was talking to you
Sir,
last
you're out
night,
of order. I
good.
understand your
Throw me out, I
frustration.
don't care. You're out of control as a board leader.
You're still on updates to the community.